This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast. Today's episode is all about getting into sales, achieving, performing at the highest levels. And with that, I've got Stela Roznovan. She's a TEDx speaker. She had a viral TEDx talk, and she's also appeared on Dream TV. And I'm really happy to have her on. She's the founder of a multimillion-dollar global life agency. She's got an amazing story, and I'm really happy to have her on. Stela, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Chris. I am excited to be here. The TED Talk titled How to Reverse Engineer Success in Life was the name of the talk. It did talk about the comfort crisis we're in these days and how to get out of that kind of realm and challenge yourself to accomplish great things. So that's what we're here to do. Thanks for having me.
And I know you've got a bold motivational message, really relevant to the entrepreneurs, the high performance, high income, high net worth audience. So talk about how you built your organization and generating $500K in monthly revenue and now helping people to achieve that in sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I started with absolutely no experience in sales. I actually have a degree in classical piano performance. So I was a competitive pianist for 18 years of my life, performed on stages nationally, internationally, and I loved it. But I realized in my early to mid 20s, once I graduated and I had a degree in piano performance, that just because I did it my entire life didn't mean I had to do it for the rest of my life. I think that sometimes it's great to switch gears and to see what else you're capable of and stretch your mindset and stretch your skill set. So that was really my experience. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I was doing so in pursuit of music. I was going to USC originally for a graduate certificate in film composition. And I realized, listen, I'm only doing this because all I've ever done is music. What if I completely change gears and go into something I've never done before? And I decided sales was it. And one of the biggest reasons I actually didn't pursue music extensively is because I'm too much of a people person. I love communicating. I love building relationships. And music is a lonely art. If you're a pianist, you have to practice 3 to 4 hours a day by yourself in a dark room with just your grand piano. And if you're a film composition, like I worked for Hans Zimmer, who is one of the greatest film composers of all time, and he would just sit in his studio all day in this dark room with a projector, scoring a measure at a time. And it's a lonely art. So I realized I wanted to get into something that allowed for me to build relationships and be around people and use my communication skills and refine my ability to influence. So sales was perfect for me. And it was an absolute leap of faith because I'd never done sales. And just because you can talk well and you can crack a joke doesn't mean you can sell. There's a psychology behind it. So I had some growing pains, but within a couple of months, I really understood what made sales work. And I understood the mechanics behind a close and how to influence somebody in a conversation. And once I got good at that, you realize that sales is very much a rinse and repeat process because it's pretty scripted and there's only so many things, that can happen in a conversation, in a sales conversation. So once I realized that it's very mechanical, I decided I wanted to explore beyond that and get into leadership and see if I can coach somebody and develop a team and vision cast and continue to grow a business from an entrepreneurial perspective, not just get good at sales. And that's what I did. So I've been in insurance sales for 8 years now. It was definitely a leap of faith when I started, but I couldn't be happier with my decision because I've grown as a person, as a sales professional, as a communicator, as a leader, And even in my personal relationships, I think I've gotten better at communicating what my ideas are, what my thoughts are. And I think that's a really powerful skill to have across the board. So that's the story.
Yeah, amazing. And I know there's so much motivational topics we can talk about. One area is when for the audience, because these audience are entrepreneurs and a lot of them are accredited, high net worth, high income. What do people come to you for help with to solve their particular problem, pain point, frustration?
Yeah, realistically, I get a lot of messages on social media. My social media is Stela Roznovan, Stela Roz. You can look me up. One L is the key, Stella with one L. And I get tons of messages about sales tips, about how do I get out of my comfort zone and get myself to six figures in like the first year of sales? How does somebody get into that? And I think that the answer to that is actually simpler than people imagine. I think getting into a level of high income earning, six figures to seven figures in income is really not too difficult as long as you understand the systems and the math behind it. So in my business, I'm in remote insurance sales, right? So we have a client base that is consistently looking for insurance products, which makes everything a lot easier. So you don't have to network and build your own book of business, which in my opinion really is half the battle. So once you have an actual client base to work through, all you got to understand is just the math behind how many appointments you have to get this many sales. That's all that you got to do and rinse and repeat. In our industry, in my business, you just have to land 5 sales a week in order to get to six figures. And that's on a smaller sales size level. So you can even do it in 4 sales if you have a higher sales size. And we provide full training for all of that, right? So once you get the emotion out of it and understand that it's just a numbers game, and as long as you have 15 meetings with folks to at least close 30%, which again is on the lower level. If you're a higher closer, it's going to take you less meetings to get to those 5 sales. But on the lower level, as averages go for rookies, it's 15 presentations to get to 5 sales. Then you'll absolutely be able to reverse engineer the numbers to get to 6 figures. That's all it takes. Now, I think that the challenge for a lot of people is they'll go through 10 no's and think that temporary circumstance is their permanent reality when it's not. Those 10 no's are usually followed by 5 yeses. But if you quit at the 10th no, you'll never get to the 5 yeses that were just around the corner. And that's usually where people misstep in sales. That's what people usually come to me with challenges, asking for help on. And it's always a mindset. It's always your perception of reality, not reality itself, that guides your behavior afterwards. So if you just understand the simplicity of the math and you keep pushing through the numbers, then you'll always land the outcomes. That's what I see every day with my top players.
It's fascinating. And what sort of client comes to you? Like, what are they struggling with? Is it they don't know is it how to get leads? What is the biggest problem clients are faced when they come to you?
Yeah. So on 2 sides of the spectrum, when we talk about clients who are looking to purchase life insurance policies or health insurance policies, a lot of those folks are working class families just looking to protect their assets for a good price that's effective and within the budget. That is something that we're able to accommodate. And I love building relationships with my clients from that angle. That's one of my favorite things, is just making sure that somebody is well protected and their family, their assets are taken care of. Now, from the perspective of agents, folks that come to me looking for a career, and I actively am hiring folks, right? So if I have somebody that comes to me looking for a way to use their skill set in sales or to get into sales and get good at it, believe me, I'm always looking for that talent, and I'm always looking to onboard new agents and talented folks. So when they come to me, their biggest challenge is to understand the psychology behind the sales process, how to influence somebody, and how to keep it simple. And I think that when it comes to sales, people tend to overcomplicate the psychology of sales. To me, a sale is just 3 basic fundamentals: authenticity, exclusivity, and urgency. Authenticity is why they should purchase from you versus the next guy. Exclusivity is why they should purchase this product versus the next product. And urgency, why they should make that buying decision today versus in 6 months from now. So those are the 3 fundamentals. If you have those 3 aspects in your sales conversation with somebody, then you'll generally have a sale at the end. Now, if you have somebody say, hey, let me think about this, that means you didn't really influence them in terms of urgency. There was not really any phrase that you used to help the client explain the need and the value in getting something locked in today. And there's a million ways to do it in insurance sales, right? If they tell you, let me shop around, then you haven't really shown them that they're getting a really good at the end of the deal, right? That's one of the biggest exclusivity misses, where they don't see the value in getting this product because you haven't shown the value. You have a projected value, right? And authenticity, if you can't really carry a conversation with somebody, they just don't really like you, right? So that goes back to basic communication skills and ability to crack a joke and carry a conversation. So those are the things I teach my agents. And I've developed scripts to be able to handle those three fundamentals and keep it simple, keep it short, get to the point, and get the sale.
The other question a lot of the audience is, so your agency, do you actually have a done for you service, or you teach clients how to build their own sales teams?
Yeah, really great question. So we actually have everything done in-house, right? We have all systems and processes ready to go. All you have to do is plug in and have the drive and coachability. I think coachability is one of the biggest aspects too, because I don't know if you've ever seen the Boiler Room movie where the guy comes in, I think it was Ben Affleck. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but we don't hire anybody with experience. You only hire rookies. And I think that there's some validity to that. The reason I say it is because it's not always, but it's very often a case where somebody that comes in with tons of experience from insurance sales, they think they know how to have the conversation, but it's a different company, it's a different product, it's a different system, it's a different client base. And so it's harder to untrain and then retrain versus train from scratch when somebody's more malleable and this is the first experience they're having with sales or insurance sales in general. So we actually prefer to train people from scratch, and we have an in-house system for training, making sure people get to success in the first year, providing a client base, making sure they have scripts and platforms to succeed. So we realized in my agency, success rates in insurance sales are 10%. So it's a really hard industry. It's not something that people get into and succeed every single day. And that's why it's so profitable, because most people don't succeed. So our job really at our level, at an agency level, is to give people the highest chance to become part of that 10% because they're part of our agency, because they got those scripts and platforms and training and clients. So they're way more likely to succeed and crack those six figures in the first year.
What are some success stories from clients that have worked with you, and how can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah. So we just had an agent, 19 years old, did 11,000 in sales in 48 hours.
Wow.
So no experience. This is his third month and he's just having fun. I had another agent just started. She went from real estate, didn't really have any sales experience. Real estate is not really something that people get out of and get into insurance sales because it's a very different process and the cycle is very different in real estate than it is insurance. But she just did 7,500 in sales in her first 5 days. So we have a lot of great people that come in and with absolutely no experience, absolutely crush it, or with some experience, but in a different industry that do just as well. If people want to reach out and get into the business and learn the process, or even have questions about, hey, how do I even start in insurance sales? How do I even go about this in this industry? They can always reach out to me on social media. It's one of the best ways to get a hold of me. Stela Roznovan, STELAROZ. If you look me up, you'll find me. I'll pop right up. Reach out to me, DM me, ask me questions. I'm always available to help, to answer questions, and also to have a chat about a potential career.
Yeah. So shifting the conversation, because you have you came from post-Soviet Moldova, and talk about, because a lot of we're high performers, and you have this idea where commission beats salary for high performers and the death of the 9 to 5.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. See, I think everything is commission based, except in some industries, commissions are capped and in some they're not. When you are working a regular 9 to 5 or a salary based position, you're still technically on commission. In other words, you're getting paid for work. That's what commission is. You put in work and you get compensated for it. The only difference is when you get into a completely commission-based environment, you have no cap on how far you can take that, right? Like there isn't a upline that'll tell you you've put in enough hours, no more. Or there isn't a clock in, clock out perception. It's more so the efficiency that you put into the hours. Listen, some folks are highly efficient. Some folks move twice as fast as others. And so if they're measured on the same measuring stick as everybody else and it's based on the hour, they can't outperform their peers because they simply can't show off the skill set they have. And if they do, guess what? Their commissions, in other words, salary, is capped because they're not on a performance-based business. So I find that a meritocracy is so much more powerful for people that are highly effective and highly efficient, because you can do a lot more in 1 hour versus somebody else simply because of your skill set, your mindset, and your work ethic. And if you can do that and stack that up, You can make way more in a commission-based environment because there's no cap to how far you can go and how much you can make. There's no ceiling, right? So in my opinion, if you're working, you're on commission. You're never going to work and not get paid, and you're never going to get paid for no work. That's just the truth. It's just a matter of what model are you going to follow? Are you going to follow a model that pays you with uncapped earnings, or are you going to follow a model that puts you into a trap of putting in hours versus putting in actual work and efficiency?
Yeah. Because a lot of the audience, we have doctors and lawyers, and it's every year they work harder and harder, but they make the same or even make less. And the hospital and insurance CEOs are making 2x, 4x, 3x, and that reminds me of this podcast. I was listening to this hedge fund billionaire, and he was saying best lesson he learned was not to trade his time for money, but to get paid for projects and for work. And that just highlights your idea of efficiency and effectiveness, and how efficient and effective are you at generating income.
I think at the end of the day, it's the idea of ownership. When you show up to work, what do you own? And I think that's one of the things I learned in insurance sales. When you sell a policy, you own that sale. Not only do you get a payout on the front end, but you get what's called residual income, which is a passive income that pays you month after month, year after year, as long as the policy is still on the book. So you own that policy, you own that sale. And when you can stack that, I've been in the business for 8 years. My passive income from all the sales I've made over the last 8 years and my teams have made over the last 8 years pay all my bills, my mortgage, everything that I own is paid by my passive income. So the profits that I gain from my front end income, my active income from my business on an annual basis is just to fund any additional ventures or businesses or investments that I have. It's not to pay my bills because that's taken care of by all the work I've already done. And I'm 32. Imagine how far you can go. People retire from this business with $150,000 a month in passive income. The most I know of, a business owner in our company, he still runs his agency. His agency does $150 million a year in revenue. But his passive income over being in the business for 40 years is $1.4 million a month. That's his residuals. So he just wrote $1 million check like 2 years ago, whenever the fires were in Hawaii. He just wrote $1 million check, and it was like not even his full residual income for that month. So that's the power of ownership, and that's the power of compounded growth in a business that repays you for the work that you've put in the past. But I think that one of the challenges is, listen, I've met a lot of really smart folks. I've met people who are extremely intelligent, who have put in so much work, getting their degrees, going to graduate school, getting PhDs. And then at the end of it, if you don't find yourself in a position to be an owner of some sort and work for another person who owns something, then you're going to find yourself in a position of stagnation financially. And I do think that can become troublesome for a lot of folks.
Yeah. Last bit of talk, you had a TEDx talk, which we'll put in the show notes, talking about how to reverse engineer success in life. And in that talk, you talked about why comfort and kind of this, here in America, we call it the middle class mindset, why it's killing your success and what to do instead.
Yeah, there's a great book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And in the book, he was a Holocaust survivor. In the book, he made a phenomenal point, and there's a lot of things that he wrote about, but this really stuck with me. He talked about the survivors of those concentration camps. The distinction between those and those who didn't make it was that they retained some level of control in their lives. And because they've retained some level of control, they still retain an identity. And what he meant by that is, even if it was something as simple as giving up their bread for a fellow prisoner, they would do so because it was their choice, even though they were starved, but they would do so because they wanted to retain that sense of agency and independence. And when we talk about the comfort crisis, there's a great book called Comfort Crisis. The premise of the book is really how many addictions we have to comfort in today's day and age, and how hard it is to find a sense of purpose when you don't feel that you have agency in your life, when you are a prisoner to Netflix, you are a prisoner to whatever you can think of, from alcohol to addictions to your smartphone and social media. Most things in our lives are addictions that we grow accustomed to. And so breaking that pattern of being comfortable with the addictions that we have is one of the most powerful things that you can do to find a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness in your life. Because people tend to feel the most happy when they feel a sense of progress. And the only way you'll feel a sense of progress is if you get out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself to do something greater and something better every single day. And that's really what the point is.
Fascinating. And I know you already, what a fantastic way to end the conversation. And for the audience, get in touch with Stela Roznovan on Instagram. She's got 22,000 followers, and check out her work and check out her TEDx talk. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. This is great.